Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Brandon, your trusted realtor, and I'm back with an update on what's been happening as it relates to stimulus funding and what that means for you. So, you all know that the CARES Act was passed, and that's $2 trillion that was allocated to support businesses and individuals through this corona period. That money is going to be allocated, and for the most part, has already been spent. Money that's been allocated to businesses has been exhausted, and there are plenty of businesses that are currently in line waiting to receive and get their name on the list. Individuals have already begun to receive their stimulus checks, and the things and wheels of legislation are rolling. So, where we are today, that's what I wanted to talk to you about. Let's go ahead, and get into it. Now, as it relates to the current stimulus package, most recently, as of today, Congress has gotten into an agreement where they're looking to pass $480 billion, with $310 billion of those dollars being allocated to the Paycheck Protection Program. This program is funding that's going to be set aside for businesses in order to help them through this most difficult time. Also, the biggest sticking point right now in the legislation, as it appears, seems to be that banks are prioritizing those individuals that are their current clients or their current customers that exist with them now. The reality is that the handwriting's on the wall. There's no way that the United States wanted to see the same situation that we saw in 2007 and in 2009. The lessons learned by politicians seem to be reflected in current policies, and that seems to be an opposite approach from the approach that was done earlier during the Great Recession. That meaning that politicians are focused on getting money in the hands of individuals and making sure that those individuals are protected versus protecting solely those that are seen as too big to fail. Also, the second piece of this is that there's also the evident avoiding foreclosure. Foreclosures reigned rampant in 2007 through 2009, and it was an awful period, not only in the area of real estate, but for banks across. Banks closed in droves and in significant numbers, and entities and individuals lost their homes and found themselves being underwater in a position where their house not valued for as much as what they paid for it. This created significant hardship for peoples, and it seems like the current political climate is taking some lesson from those past experiences. The CARES Act was $2 trillion that was set aside. When you break down the percentage or overall allocation of the CARES Act, you see about 28% of that was given to individuals. 43% was allocated to businesses and those small organizations or those small mom and pop shops. The rest of that money was then divvied up between states, localities, educations, institutions, and nonprofit organizations. Now, I want to talk to you specifically about a few things as it relates to this new bill that's in place. A couple things you should know is that there's two proposals in place currently with Congress. The first is the Emergency Money for the People Act, and this policy would provide monthly cash payments to those individuals that are eligible. The second is the Mortgage Cancellation Act. This would stop all rent and mortgage payments, and this would essentially, quote unquote, cancel those payments for a period of time while also creating protections for landlords and mortgage companies. So let's talk about what does that mean, how this is going to work, the impact of this for landlords and lenders, and whom would be eligible for these programs. What this means is that there's going to be more money or more stimulus money available with this bipartisan bill that's currently being considered. Most recently, like I said, as recently as today, there's been an update that says there's a high likelihood that Congress is going to push this forward, and they're going through the nitty-gritty as it relates to negotiating the tenets of it. Having this additional cash available means that more individual Americans are going to be eligible for this in order to receive these recurring payments. Also be more money that's going to be put into the Paycheck Protection Program. That means that this program will get additional funding that will aid businesses and nonprofit organizations cover the cost and support themselves as we endure this current pandemic situation, and these loans are in most instances forgivable. So make sure you check the link below and read some additional information on how these loans are forgivable and other ways that you can apply. You can apply primarily with the Small Business Administration, but check out the link and the information below to make sure you get the latest and greatest. Also, joblessness claims. Those claims have peaked to over 22 million. So that's in line with the 2007, 2009 figures. And like I said before, the handwriting is on the wall. We wanted to be in a place, at least politically, where we avoid such a catastrophic situation where people are losing their homes and there's this huge reliance on government and corporate entities in order to get us out of this situation. And you want to avoid mass struggle. Anytime that you have mass struggle, you have the heightened possibility that there could be mass hysteria. And you want to avoid that because people are already simply just now recovering for many individuals from the Great Recession as it relates to savings and putting themselves in a position where they feel the most financially comfortable. Not acting on the part of Congress would be, for most of them, political suicide because most Americans aren't in a place where they're interested in giving any or much leeway or credit to businesses or to bail them out. How this works. Now, this applies to all existing renters and mortgage agreements. So that means that all lending companies, as long as you have an agreement here in the US, your mortgage company and your rental lease agreement would be applicable and fall under this law. That includes primary mortgages, subordinate leases, and rooms for rent. Yeah, that includes you. So if you have a roommate and you rented a place, so maybe like Facebook Marketplace, or you have a shared room situation, that applies to you. Even if you don't have a basic business license, you can't just up and kick your roommate out. Also, this applies to all renters and mortgage borrowers despite their income. This new legislation would apply to all Americans, so it creates a level playing field for every individual to participate and to potentially reap these benefits, or not potentially, to directly reap these benefits. The law and the authority for this law appears to be, for this new legislation, retroactive to March 31st. So that means that that's going to cover the period of April 1st. And if you check out my earlier video where I talked about COVID, and I also wrote an article on my blog that you can follow at bscottrealtydmv.com, I'll have that link below as well. Well, you'll see I wrote in that article that April 1st is coming and that landlords are going to want their money, and being a homeowner affords you certain protections. While this new legislation is being created to protect renters in this economic crisis, there's already protections in place, such as loss mitigation and forbearance assistance that I talk more about in those articles and those videos. I'll tag those below. That means mortgage and rent relief will exist, and you can take advantage of those, but you can't take advantage of both of those. So if that means that if you are not able to pay your mortgage or you're not able to pay your rent, you can apply to have relief as it relates to one or the other, but you can't have both of them. How are landlords going to be impacted? Great question. Landlords aren't going to be left out in the cold. The HUD, which is the Housing Urban Development, they have been tasked with creating a relief fund for landlords and a relief fund for lenders. This relief fund is going to be used to reimburse them for any rent and mortgage payments that were not paid by any individual that was impacted by the pandemic or that is not actively paying their rent or mortgage payment. That means there's going to be like private mortgage insurance, a pool of money that's created for those individuals to apply to and to get that money and to receive that relief. Also, fair renting and lending practices still have to exist. So that doesn't mean that you as a landlord are exempt from those fair housing and fair lending practices. You'll see in the current market and the current ecosystem that lending practices are getting more stringent. So that ultimately means that it is becoming a slightly more difficult for the average individual who doesn't have better or outstanding credit to get a mortgage loan because lenders are scrutinizing those loans much more heavily. Part of the reason for that is that they want to avoid a situation of 2007 and 2009 where there's a significant number of foreclosures. Why do they want to avoid that situation? Not only because they lose money, but also because it had a destabilizing effect on the global economy, and that's something that we can't tolerate back to back. to recession type of situations as it relates to the American economy. There's one really funny meme that I saw a little bit earlier this week that said that America is like a third world country in a Gucci belt. And that really is kind of tantamount to what we're trying to avoid as it relates to a global economic, or at least in the United States, economic crisis. And that living in the world that we're in, that we're so interconnected, that's going to have global consequences and spill over to the rest of the world. That'll reverberate and it will have far-reaching impact. Now, back to landlords. Talking more about this creation, there's also going to be the creation of an affordable housing fund. The purpose of this affordable housing fund will be to put money aside to be used to allow for affordable housing and housing units by states and localities and landlords. So that means that there's still going to be units available for those individuals that need and have the need to access them. Whom would be eligible for this program and this type of assistance? Great question. Now, right now, most of you that should have already received the $1,200 that was allotted to you for the CARES Act, if you're eligible for that, or whatever amount that you qualified for. For this new program, single individuals under $130,000 will receive $2,000 monthly. Married individuals that make less than $260,000 will receive at least $4,000. And if you have up to 3 kids, you'll get additional monies. Now, if you have more than 3 kids, then you don't get any additional funding or money for having more than 3 kids. So you'll just have to make sure that you're doing the necessary accounting to accommodate all of the expenses that come with the additional children that you do have. Also, other individuals that would be eligible for this program under the new law would be college students that are classified as dependents and adults with disabilities that are also classified as dependents. They will qualify for the assistance that is being provided under this new law. Additionally, people who are unemployed and who had no income in the previous year would be eligible to qualify. So the new law comes with a lot of new provisions and a lot of new opportunities for you as an individual to protect not only yourself, but your asset. But the best way and the individuals that are going to find themselves in a position that to reap the most benefit, in my personal opinion and prediction, are going to be individuals that are mortgage owners. A few reasons why that exists is that any individuals that is going to have a deferral in their mortgage payment will put them in a situation where they can either if they are still gainfully employed, they continue to make payments on their mortgage and they can make those payments to their principal directly. Those principal payments could potentially put them in a situation where they've been able to pay their mortgage down much quicker than the 30-year time frame that typical mortgages are created for. Second, there's the opportunity for you to save money, period. It creates a space for you to change your habits, and with a change of your habits creates the opportunity for you to save money and create more lifetime investments. Remember, within 30 days, you form new habits. And we've been in quarantine for more than 30 days, so we certainly should have some habits that are formed. Hopefully, these are positive habits that have been formed. Third, another thing to take into consideration is the opportunity to do capital improvements. Yeah, that's right. If you're a homeowner and you own your property right now and you need to do things like add a deck to the property or do some landscaping, now would be a great time for you to be able to save some of that money, put that to the side, and allocate for that purpose. Remember, as a homeowner, you have the ability to make improvements to your property, and those improvements usually result in some increase in the appraised value of your home. That essentially is a forced savings plan, creating the opportunity for you to increase the value of your property, enhance the aesthetics of your neighborhood and community, and making you a good tenet of the social contract that we all sign when we decide to be a homeowner, which is let's increase the value of our property and let's create an asset that works for us. So remember to subscribe and stay tuned and tuned in to The Real Tea in DMV.